The next technique I want to share with you is called question to clarify. Because after all, the other person might be right. If somebody says, "The report you've written is rubbish," ask them, "What don't you like about it?" We tend to avoid situations where we might get criticised. Why would we want to invite more criticism? But either they're right and you can learn something, or they're wrong, in which case you can decide whether it's worth arguing your case, or just fogging and letting it go with something like, "Okay, yes, I probably could have been better." Fog and forget it. Sometimes it's not worth the fight. There's a great technique for finding out what someone's problem really is, and it's called peeling the onion. And this is where you say, "Apart from that." So you could say, "Apart from the page numbering error, what did you think of my report?" And they might say, "Well, the report was fine apart from that." But if they give another thing about it that they don't like, then it means that the first one wasn't the only reason, and perhaps wasn't what they're really unhappy about. So just keep going and say, "Apart from those things, was the report okay? Is there anything else that you didn't like about it?" And when they finally say, "No, nothing else, that's it," then you know you've got the real reasons out. Now, quite often, the last reason is the one that you really need to deal with. So why don't they come out with the main problem first time? And the reason for that is that people often have a more personal or emotional reason for being unhappy with you. And you need to find out what's really going on if you're going to have any chance of getting things resolved. And they may not want to admit this emotional reason. They may not even be aware of it to start with when they first weighed in with some sort of critical remark. So often they won't come out with the real reason first. So you have to peel the onion to find the real problem. It's a form of lack of assertiveness on their part, not telling you what's really bothering them. So once you've found the real reason, you can then move on to 3 more types of questioning if you choose to. And the first one is questioning to undermine. This works really well on me, actually. If someone tells me I'm wrong, I don't believe them. But if they ask me, "How do I know that I'm right?" then I get a bit stuck for words and I start to admit to myself, and even maybe to them, that I'm not completely sure. So questioning to undermine is subtle but very powerful, particularly for people like me who have opinions but don't always have proof. The second type of questioning is questioning to persuade. Suppose you wanted to, persuade somebody to give up smoking. If you just say, "You should give up smoking," that's not going to work. They're just going to say, no, I'm addicted, I don't want to. It's much better to ask them, "Have you ever thought of giving up? And when you did think about giving up, what was your motivation?" And suppose they say, "Well, I'd like to be better at playing football." You could then say, "Well, why is playing football important?" And they might say, "Well, I want to play football with my grandchildren." And then you can ask them about that. And you can really start to drill into what their motivation really is. And this is useful information when it comes to persuading them to give up. And then you can ask them, what's the barrier to giving up? Why don't you give up right away? And what would it take to overcome that barrier? These questions are giving you all sorts of really important information about what's going on in their head. And remember that everything that they say is true to them. If you say you should give up, they'll be thinking, "No, I shouldn't." But if they say, "I need to give up," then that's true to them. The third type of questioning is questioning to disagree. Suppose you wanted to convince somebody that electric cars are great. A good start would be to say to them, "Do you know the facts on acceleration of electric cars and the running costs of electrical cars?" And you could also say to them, if there was proof that electric cars were really good, would you be prepared to have a look at one? Or we could even say, presumably you'd be open-minded enough to try driving one. Those are questions to disagree. I'd like you to think, has there been a recent situation where you came up against a brick wall and could maybe have got past it by using questioning rather than statements? Can you think of times when peeling the onion would be a way to find out more about what's really going on in someone's mind? Can you think about people who might respond well to questioning, either questioning to undermine, questioning to persuade, or questioning to disagree?